Hello everyone, welcome to the wonderful session of reasoning. Today, in this session, we will be discussing a very important topic called blood relations. Now, this is a very confusing topic for you all, so please make sure that you pay complete attention over here because I will be telling you a trick which you have never heard so far. Right? So when I talk about blood relations and if I ask you a question, how many types of blood relations that you have? So many people would be saying like 5, 6, 10, 12, 8, that how many that one knows. But it would be a great surprise to you that there are only two blood relations that you have. One is called paternal and one is called maternal. Now, paternal relation is from your father's side and maternal relation is from your mother's side. Now, in these two relations, there would be relatives that would be coming and be called as your blood relatives. So, when we talk about blood relations, if somebody asks you how many blood relations do you have, it is always two. One is paternal and one is maternal. And in these two blood relations, you will be having different blood relatives, which we have classified them in separate generations. So let's talk about the generations. Suppose I will be starting with generation 0. Right, and I will be calling this generation as your generation. So at this particular generation 0, who will be born? You. Now, who were your blood relatives that were born on your generation, right, and are classified as your blood relatives? One is brother, next is sister, next cousins, next husband, wife called as your spouse. Next, if your spouse is a blood relative, then their siblings like your brother-in-law and sister-in-law will also be your blood relative. So in your generations, how many blood relatives that you have? Are brother, sister, cousins, husband, wife, brother-in-law and sister-in-law. Now let's move on to one generation down and let's call this generation as generation 1. Now, generation that would be coming after you, in those generations, the blood relatives that you have are son, daughter, nephew, niece, son-in-law, daughter-in-law. Right? So these will be blood relatives that you have in your generation. Right? Let me just write it again. Daughter-in-law. Right? So we will be moving one generation below from this generation and we will be calling it as generation 2. So 2 generation below your generation, the blood relatives that you have are grandson and granddaughter. Right? So after your generation, 2 generations below to your generation, you will be having grandson and granddaughter as a blood relative. Now let's move to one generation previous to your generation and we will be calling it as generation -1. Now blood relatives previous to your generation who were born in this particular generation would be father, mother, uncle, aunt, father-in-law, and mother-in-law. Mother-in-law. Right? Now let's move on to one generation previous to generation minus one, and we will be calling that particular generation generation minus two. Now blood relatives at this generation, those were born blood relatives that you have are grandfather and grandmother. Now this is a family tree, or you can say this is a generation chart that you need to follow in your every question, right? We will be solving every question based on this generation chart only, so make sure this is a very important chart, that which are your relatives and at which generation they were born. Make sure about that, you know this. Plus in every question I will be using some notations, make sure that you know those notations. However, in exam you can choose the notation as per your discretion, but if at anywhere I have used the symbol plus, I have written a symbol plus for anybody, that means that particular person is a male. If I have used the symbol minus for a character, that means that particular person is a female. And if I have used a symbol of double imply between two set of characters, right, letters, or I must say, that means they are a married couple. However, in exam you can use as per your discretion. Again I'm telling you, like some people make female in circle and male in terms of a square or something like that, so that is also correct, you can use that as well, but during the every question I will be using these notations, so make sure that you copy it somewhere in your notebook, right? Now let's start practice of some questions. Now here we will be using a family tree concept. We will be using a family tree concept to solve every question, right, followed over here. Now let's take down the first question. In this particular question we are given that if A is B's sister, if A is B's sister, now A is sister of B, I will be making a family tree of this particular concept. If A is sister of B, that means A and B are born on same generation, and since A is the sister, the gender for A would be female. Now we do not know the gender of B because B can either be a male or a female, right? Next part is C is B's mother. Now C is mother of B and we know that mother is born one generation earlier, and since C is mother, C would be female. D is C's father. D is father of C, right? And father is born one generation earlier, and since D is father, the gender of D would be male. And next is E is D's mother. Now E is D's mother, so she will be born one generation previous to D, and since she is mother, the gender for E would be a female. Now the question that is asked to me is, how is A related to D? How is A related to D? So we can see that A is present two generations below D, right? And the blood relatives that you have two generations below to your generation are grandson or granddaughter, and since the gender of A is a female, the answer over here would be granddaughter. So A would be granddaughter of D, and if I ask you what would be the relation of D with respect to A, it would be grandfather, since D is a male, right? So I hope this is clear. Let's move on to the next question. Now in this question we are given that B is brother of C. Now B is brother of C, that means B and C are born on same generation, and since B is brother, the gender for B would be male. We do not know the gender of C. She could either be a female or a male, right? Next, C is the daughter of D. Now C is daughter of D, that means C is a female since she is daughter, right? And daughter of D, so D would be parent, born one generation earlier to C, and D is parent of C, so we do not know the gender of D. D could be a father or a mother as well, right? Next is F is husband of D. Now see, F is husband of D, that means F and D are married couple, and since F is husband, the gender of F would be male and the gender of D would be female, right? Because F is husband, that means D would be the wife. Now question is, how is B related to F? Now how is B related to F? So we can see that B is present one generation below to F, and B is, with respect to F, B is the F's wife's son, right? So wife's son is your own son, so answer would be son, because B would be the son of F, as B is, right, F's wife's son, right? So make sure about that. Let's move on to the next question. Now this is a question based on indirect prospect. Pointing to a woman in a photograph, a man says. Now whenever you have a question that starts with the word pointing or introducing, right, that starts with the word pointing or introducing, you always make sure, first of all, you need to find out whosoever is saying the sentence. So pointing to a woman in a photograph, a man says. Here man is saying the sentence, so place up the man first in your family tree. Whosoever is saying the sentence, we will be placing that particular person first in our family tree. So here man is saying, so I have placed man first, and since it is a man, that means the gender of M would be male. Now the second step would be find out the keyword my. So here it is given keyword my. So my is for that particular person who is saying this complete sentence. So here my, then the next relation is father, right? So my father would be man's father. So we know that if man has a father, he would be born one generation earlier, and since he is a father, that means he would be male. My father's only daughter-in-law, right? Father's only daughter-in-law. Daughter-in-law is your son's wife. So this F has a daughter-in-law, that means M is the son of F, and if M is married to a person X, then X would be the daughter-in-law of F, right? Because X would be, right, the father's son's wife. So that is your daughter-in-law. Next, now from daughter-in-law we can see that there is a full stop, and next we do not have any relation, so we will find out a relation that is present to the left of my. So there is a relation present to the left of my, and that is only daughter. Now only daughter of X, because this was the person that was last made in the graph. So only daughter of X, let's take it as D. Now D is the only daughter of X. Now my question says, how is the women related to the man? Now this woman, which was made last in the graph, this woman is related to this man, right? So this D is man's wife's daughter. Now wife's daughter is your daughter only, so my answer would be option B, daughter, right? Let's move on to the next question. Now here the question says, pointing to a man in a photograph, a woman says, he is the father, right? So as I have told you, if the sentence starts with the keyword pointing or introducing, first of all you need to find whosoever is saying the sentence. Here women is saying the sentence, so I will be placing the women first in my graph. Here it is women. Now women says, I have to find the keyword my. Now there is a keyword my, so my would be for women only. Now my only daughter-in-laws, my only daughter-in-laws. So women has a daughter-in-law, that means women would be having a son, let's say X, and if X is married to Y, so this Y would be the daughter-in-law of W. Let me again explain this concept to you, right? I'm sensing that some might be having a problem. First of all, I have to find whosoever is saying the sentence. Here women is saying the sentence, so I will be placing women first. Then I have to find the keyword my. Here it is given my, and then relation next to my is only daughter-in-laws. Now, if women has a daughter-in-law, that means women would be having a son X, and if X is married to Y, then this Y would be the daughter-in-law of W, right? So I hope now it is clear. Now, daughter-in-law's father-in-law. Now, this daughter-in-law has a father-in-law. That means that father-in-law would be born one generation earlier, and let's say F. Now, since W is the mother-in-law of Y and F is the father-in-law of Y, that means W and F are married couple, where F is husband, W is the wife, right? Now, we do not find any other relation that is next to father-in-law, so we'll be finding a relation that is present to the left of my, and that is he is father. So he is father of this F, as this was drawn in the last, and let's take it as A, and since he is a father, he would be a male, right? So now my question says, what is the man to the women? How is this man related to this woman? How is this man related to this woman? We can say that this man is present one generation earlier to the women, and he is the father of this woman's husband. So father of women's husband would be father-in-law. My answer would be father-in-law. So these were some concepts that were related to blood relations. These were some questions which I made you to understand the logic of blood relations. Please practice these questions, right? Watch this video again to learn the concept. Thank you for watching this video. Keep learning and keep smiling.